work, and I had to patch up this presentation in about 20 or so minutes. But I do hope that we derive significant value from it, especially owing to the topic that we're discussing, but also owing to, again, the requirements um, that are expected of us, again, as Anita rightly put, in regard to the aspect of the law and of the Data Privacy and Protection Act. So it's important that we do have this discussion. It's important that we do engage, and as part of cybersecurity awareness month, or as part of privacy awareness, but also as part of larger discussions into privacy. Someone says my voice is low. I don't know whether that is correct. Maybe another person can just comment and do that, and see whether the point is the same. But ideally, yeah. So glad to have you, and without really wasting so much time, let's dive through it. And I hope we do have a fruitful engagement along this journey. And I hope we do get to ask a lot of interesting questions and have a lot of discussion, a lot of engagement, especially around this very vital topic. We're going to explore privacy enhancing technologies, or privacy enhancing tools. In short form, we do call them PETs. We shall look at quite a variety of them. Some of them are actual technical solutions. Others are design concepts. Others are especially for people like us in academia. Others are theoretical concepts that need to be explored, or the theoretical concepts that have been shared and are being looked at. Basically, of course, yeah, she's done a good job on the introduction. There's no need for me to do anything more than that. Usually, when I put up this slide, of course, I only make one comment when I do that. That all the views that I do present and I express in this forum or in this meeting are mine and mine only, and do not reflect the views of the Institute of Cybersecurity, of society, the uni, but also does not reflect the views of Centenary Bank, but also does not reflect the view of His Royal Majesty the King. So the views are mine and mine only, and these are based on my own understanding and on my own training, probably on these concepts, which knowledge may be limited due to natural factors. But I do hope that I can deliver that is available, and we're able to have a more fruitful discussion. So nothing more than that, and that's right. So basically, we're discussing privacy enhancing technologies, or privacy enhancing tools, and now we realize that I'll sort of switch up tools and technologies quite a bit. And again, for context, I may move my eye across the screen. I have quite a wide screen, so I may see something on that screen. So if I turn away, I think just for your information, I'm still with you, and I'm still seeing what's happening. So basically, before we move into the discussion of understanding the tools themselves, it will be important for us to just have a basic understanding of privacy and just try to understand what that means. And what I put across here are just the dictionary definitions, and these are definitions that are not necessarily based on science, or the definitions are not entirely they're not necessarily from a technological perspective, just discussions that are just dictionary based. And if you look at, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary, privacy is basically keeping personal matters and relationships secret. Just basic as that. There's information about you, there's the relationships about you, the personal matters about you. You just don't want that shared. And that is as basic as it is. According to the Oxford Learners Dictionary, privacy is the state of being free from the attention of the public. And this necessarily is not from the aspects of technology. This is just general. There are things about you as an individual that you don't want other people to know. There are things about you as a company, as a society, that you don't want other people to know. And that's just a state of that information, or a state of yourself being free from the attention of the public. For many of us who are not in the socialite space, we want to be private. We want to keep our information to ourselves. And basically, that is really that's what privacy means. But in the larger frame of things, when we discuss privacy, it's not a new concept, and I usually find this interesting. This is privacy in about either around the 4th and the 5th century BC, before Christ, and there's what was called the Hippocratic Oath, which ideally it's as basic as that, and it reads, "And whatsoever I shall see or hear in the course of my profession, as well as outside my profession, in my intercourse with men, if it be what should not be published abroad, I will never divulge, holding such things to be holy secret." And basically, that means is if I'm engaging with you in the course of my work, if I'm engaging with you in the course of my relationship with you, my personal relationship with you, if there are things that are said to me, or if there are things that I get to know that are not supposed to be published abroad, meaning they're not supposed to be put out to the public, then I'll not put them out and hold those to be public secrets, which idea will translate into what we call private information or sensitive information. And basically, this is the Hippocratic Act, and this is now what is being taken as the oath of medical service, the oath taken by our friends in the medical sector, meaning I will receive information about clients and I will not disclose that information. That's the new text. I'll maintain the privacy of information of my patients, but the background is as basic as that, and you can see that right from the 4th and the 5th century BC, already talking about aspects of privacy. But of course, there are also aspects of privacy uh, from the security perspective. You could say from the aspects of security, we are going to attack one nation. We don't want that information to be disclosed, so that information has to be kept secret. So privacy dates way back, and it's not necessarily a new concept that we're just seeing in this age. And of course, in terms of how that has evolved throughout the period 1890 to 1928, thereabouts, there was the Harvard Law Review. That was a very good paper published on aspects of privacy. And then one of the constitutional judges at the time, was called Brandeis, interpreted the constitutional right to privacy. Basically, means it's no longer just a right; it's something that is constitutional, and people ought to have the right to their privacy. 1948, there was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was a key milestone in that space, especially recognizing privacy and recognizing it worldwide and abroad. And in 1950, there was the European Convention on Human Rights that introduced some key legislation in that space in terms of privacy being a human right. And German adopted it in May, and then our colleagues here in the UK adopted that in the following year the same year in June. So privacy has really evolved, and again, right from the 4th and 5th century, in terms of the Hippocratic Act, in terms of war, up to now, 1950 now, where there's the European Convention on Human Rights. So it has evolved, and it has become a key thing that we talk about right now, and it's very, very vital that we do keep our privacy, because one of the key things to privacy, one of the key benefits to it, is that it enables trust. And for us, from a technology perspective, if you cannot deliver digital trust to your customers, then your customers are not going to trust whatever that you're putting on the table. So it's important that we do have that, and we do have that respect for privacy, because it has both an impact on our operation, but also an impact on revenues. So we've largely spoken about privacy in the context, in the general context, really, in terms of information about an individual, information about armies going to war. We've spoken about the Hippocratic Act. We've spoken about the Act of Medical Service, the Author of Medical Service. Quite a number of things. But for this particular context, we just want to speak about privacy in the digital age. And privacy in the digital age is again what we're discussing to begin with, but also it is what has garnered really a lot of discussion, especially around aspects of privacy. And when we speak about privacy in the digital age, it's as basic. Again, I just want to keep the definition basic. It's just protection of personal data. We collect a lot of information about our customers. We collect a lot of information about our patients. We collect a lot of information about people around us, about users, and that's quite a bit of information. And those people have trusted us with that information. So what privacy does is just protection of that of that personal and of that personal data of those particular people, just to ensure that there's those elements of trust. The law is quite clear, and I want to be on next slide. There will be something where we shall discuss some of those aspects, but we just need to have the distinction between what is sensitive personal data and what is private data. Private data will be personal data. That is correct, but it's just the privacy of that data then is depends, one could say, on the subject, or you call it depends on the owner of that particular data, because the idea would be that it is private data to me, so I can decide whether or not I want to disclose it, or I can decide that, okay, this is something that the public can consume. So that really depends on me, and there's not a lot of regulation around private data, because ideally that is dependent, and the aspects of whether or not the information is private is based on the conceptions of the data subject. So there's not really much legislation around. It's one of those things that if I saw online, I'll really get I'll get embarrassed, or if it's one of those things, if anyone got to know about it, I'll get embarrassed. But it's not really covered by law. But when you speak about sensitive personal data, that one requires more stringent protection and control, and that's where we see aspects of data privacy legislation coming through. That's where we're having this discussion, especially around privacy enhancing technologies and tools. So that's the data that is protected. It is sensitive personal data, or one could call it personal identifiable information, which is PII, and that is where a lot of the control and a lot of the protection comes through. That is where legislation really kicks in, just to ensure that that sensitive personal data, or that personal identifiable data is protected. The Act, and our Act, the DPPA, but also if global acts, if you look at the GDPR, if you look at the UK privacy laws, the definitions of personal identifiable information are more or less the same. And I've just listed quite a number of examples here, aspects pertaining to name, aspects pertaining to your national identification number. For other countries, of course, that identify is different. For the UK and for the US, it may be an SSN, which is the social security number, aspects pertaining to your religious and your political beliefs, your address, whether physical, whether logical. And logical means the IP address from a technological perspective, aspect pertaining to biometrics. I think probably we've heard about when World Orbit was in Nairobi, a lot of concern around the biometrics, medical information. We've again discussed the Democratic Act, very brief, and a background to that, and how it has evolved into the author of privacy in medical practice. Aspects pertaining to race, aspects pertaining to sexual orientation, aspects pertaining to telephone number. The aspects that one would believe that, okay, this is my information, this is information that is personal to me, and this is information that that is protected by law. And of course, the aspect again from an education perspective. So the Act provides a very robust list of them. I've just listed out some that I want to believe that we should be familiar with, should be easy for us to pick up on, and that we should be able to really make sense make easy sense of them, because these are things that we see on a day. The name, the religion, all this information is information that we see, and this information at times that we give at will. So it's those are the aspects of the information that are protected by the law. So following that background, and again from a deep understanding of privacy, and knowing where we've come from, knowing how that has that has evolved, knowing how legislation has evolved. I just want us to then now have a discussion, a larger discussion around around PETs, around privacy enhancing technologies or privacy enhancing tools. And again, from the definition itself, it's I could say it's sort of self-explanatory per se, because what that means is it's as clear as it is. There's privacy, there's something that is enhancing it, and what is enhancing it is a technology or it's a tool. So basically, that is what PETs are. We'll just call them in short form as PETs, privacy enhancing technology, technologies that do enhance privacy. They embody the basic fundamentals of or the basic fundamental principles of data protection, and they do that by minimizing personal data, maximizing security, and empowering individuals. And if you look at those, the three critical aspects, one is you're minimizing the use of personal data, and by minimizing the use of it by default, it means you're going to minimize on your collection. So that is important. It's an important part of that definition. Two, maximizing data security. As a data controller, you do have obligations from the aspects of the law to be able to provide adequate protection, again, as Anita rightly pointed out from this one's beginning, to provide adequate protection, provide adequate adequate controls and safeguards to ensure that data of individuals that you collect is protected. And that is a key, it's a key order, or it's a key part of that definition. And then third, the aspect of empowering individuals. So empowering individuals basically means that the control over those aspects of the data, those aspects of the law are back to the user or the back to the data subject. So those the power of whether it's the right to be forgotten, whether it's aspects of consent, the individual should be empowered for them to know those things, to know that they can actually exercise those principles. And so if you look at the PETs, it's just a basic, it has all the three fundamentals. One, we are minimizing personal data use, which by default means we are minimizing its collection. Two, we are maximizing data security, which means we are doing what the law requires of us, which is implementing safeguards and controls. And then three, we are giving power back to the individuals. So what PETs allow us is just basically that. They have all those fundamentals embedded in them, and we shall see as we go on in terms of looking at each of these PETs. We shall be able to determine, or shall be able to assess and see where each of these falls. So our journey around PETs, let's try to throw around one or two or a few things. As I said, I made the presentation largely in the morning, trying to get things in order. So our journey will just evolve around those things. I've shared quite a bit in terms of that, but we shall look at privacy enhancing technologies from all these aspects. We shall look at aspects of data anonymization. We shall look at aspects of anonymous communication. We shall look at some aspects of DLPs, data loss prevention technologies. We shall have a brief discussion around public blockchains and cryptocurrencies. From an academia perspective, we shall look at some aspects of privacy preserving computing. Some of them are already in production now. Others are still theoretical models, but many of them are already in production, and those would be from the aspects of academia. So we shall also have a brief look at those. We shall look at, for those of us that interact with the internet, we shall look at some web privacy PETs, and then finally probably we shall cover the aspects of PBD, which is privacy by design, and also, of course, there's another concept of privacy by default. So we should just try to contrast those two because there's usually some confusion around which is which, but shall try to contrast that. So basically, our discussion is going to evolve around these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 themes, just to ensure that we get a better understanding of that. And just to start us through, we shall look at data anonymization. Data anonymization, basically, for you to anonymize data and just try to keep it as basic as possible, means it should be hard for someone to identify who that data belongs to just by them looking at it. And that is what basically data anonymization is about. Because there are several technologies that we can embed, or several technologies that we can use to recording in progress. That's several technologies we can use to just give me a second. Okay, I think that should be fine. I had just connected my other device, so there was some feedback probably that was coming through, and then that should no longer be an issue. Yeah, so that's not what speaking about the technologies of data anonymization. Just trying to make sure that if someone looked at a large data set, they will not be able to pick out that this data belongs to this person, this data belongs to that person. So we start with aspects of generalizing data. Generalizing data just means you're just trying to make that data less specific. What that means is there's a huge data set that you're looking at. There is there's a lot of information about quite a number of people. But I try to generalize that data, try to make that data less specific, in that if someone extracted that data, they'll not be able to know who that belongs to. And meaning you can just give a general and say generally customers fall within this income range. So that would be aspect of generalizing data. Aspect of course, what you need to understand is again that when you generalize data, it becomes less specific, it may lose precision. What that will mean is that if, let's say, if Rodney got probably, let's say, a score of 50%, and then in the whole data set, quite a number of people, other people got 90s, that people got 70s. If generalize that data, it may not be more specific to me, so I may not be able to know. But yeah, that's the aspect of privacy, but we lose some precision. Suppressing data, meaning you just make data less meaningful. That means you have a large data set, you've suppressed it to a point where it is, if someone got it and they didn't have initial context, they'll not be able to understand what that is about. So you suppress that data. But just by, it's less meaningful, but for someone who has the context and the background, they will be able to understand. But for someone who does not have that context, they may not be able to pick what exactly it is. So that would be suppressing data. And the easiest one to understand is using averages. If you're looking at an income band, you're looking at an income range, you're looking at numbers, you're looking at a figure, you can just get an average. An average of it, and you replace the values with averages. For example, I've probably sat, let's say, 8 or so exams. I have these scores. You could just match them together and say, this is my average mark. And that would be the average mark. It will be less specific. I'll not be able to pick further information from it. It will be less specific, but I'll be able to know that this was my range of marks. So you can also use that just in the process of anonymizing data. And if you have several people, you can actually disclose their marks without having looking at the bits and pieces of marks in the different subjects. The aspects of introducing noise, what basically that means is that there's a huge and there's a big data set, but you introduce bits of noise. And noise from a technology perspective in data just means you introduce, it's not necessarily unwanted, but something that sort of displaces the data in a way. For example, if I have a wave of signals, I can just put some noise in between, so someone cannot be able to understand that. So if I have, let's say, I'll just take the examples of marks. If I have marks of students, and I don't want that to be identifiable, I can just add some bits of unwanted, or call it unwanted in quotes, though it's wanted in this particular case. But I'll just add some bits of unwanted data into it, which idea will be noise into it. And what that will mean is that if someone got that data set, or if the data set then leaked, you will not be able to understand it, because there's bits and bits of noise that are in there. And that noise can be added using an algorithm, or that noise can just be as basic as if they're marks 95%, 75%, we just say I'll add a K at the start and an A in the middle, so it is K9A5. So if someone looked at that data, they'll not be able to know that actually this is 95. But you who has that context, you'll be able to understand that this K and A is just noise, but this 95 is what I need to, is the actual score. In the aspects of swapping data, you can swap the data between users, and that can work in some contexts, but other contexts may not work. And basically what that means is that, if, for example, if you're looking at customer balances, you cannot swap customer balances. And so that will not be right. But if you're looking at probably there's a team building activity and users are assigned to different groups based on their age or based on something, if you swap such data, the risk is less. So that's technology that you can be able to you can employ. Of course, what you need to understand is that some of these data anonymization techniques should work in the others, but others will not work in certain specific contexts. So it's good that we have a clear understanding of this. So that was the first bucket of what we wanted to look at in terms of our journey, data anonymization. We've spoken about generalizing it, suppressing it, using averages, swapping it, and introducing noise. One of the key things, and one of a good case study here, I don't know whether we are familiar with the FindFace story of 2016. And basically, to understand that, I just put a microscope there for us to just understand. Someone went onto a subway, went onto a bus, and was randomly taking pictures of people. And they took quite a bit of pictures. All they were doing is get those pictures. Of course, without their consent, they did not know. The person got those pictures and then text them on. There's a social media site that used to be familiar in Russia called FindFace, and we just put data there, and with almost 95% precision, all those pics that were taken was able to identify anyone, almost everyone as long as you had a FindFace profile, as long as you had a profile on that social media site, this FindFace a tool was able to go out and pick out those. So it's one of those aspects where we see that privacy, one, can be infringed on, but also technologies that may not necessarily be privacy enhancing in this particular perspective, but also they're more of privacy evasive. So this is really a good story, and I will encourage anyone that has time to just look at this thing, which is the Russian art of metastalking, and it's a very, very good case study in privacy. The second aspect is that we're going to look at in broad of PET is privacy preserving computing. And basically that means it is computing. You're carrying out computing on different data sets, but you're maintaining privacy. And there are quite a number of technologies there. I've just picked out a few. One of them is secure multi-party computation. And what basically that means is we have. I'll explain this in an easy way. I don't know whether we are familiar with the 2 millionaires problem. There's a researcher called Andrew Yao who developed the 2 millionaire problem. So 2 or more parties jointly evaluate a function over their inputs while keeping those inputs private. What basically that means is, if you look at the 2 millionaire problem, is you have an algorithm that is processing information. There are two millionaires, but they want to know who is the richer millionaire, but they don't want to disclose to each other their net worth. So I'm a millionaire, there's another millionaire B. We don't want to share our wealth, but we want to know who's richer. So in that two millionaires problem, one millionaire puts in their input, which is their net worth. Another millionaire puts in their input, which is the network, or which is their net worth. And then the algorithm basically just says this one is richer. It will not tell you richer by what margin, richer by, it just says, yeah, I've got an input from both of you, so B is the richer person. So there's an output, but the inputs that have been provided have not been shared, and that is what is secure multi-party computation. The second is the aspects of what we call homomorphic encryption. Homomorphic encryption basically means is the same way we can search for patterns of data in data that is in plain text, we should be able to search encrypted data for the same. So there is computation. The data is encrypted, one to begin with, which is secure encryption. Encryption by itself is a privacy enhancing tool. Data is encrypted, so it gets disclosed, the securities around that. But homomorphic encryption then allows us to go over and above by saying, yes, you've encrypted the data, or it just says, okay, you do not have to keep the data in plain text for you to carry out computation over it. You can encrypt the data, but using homomorphic encryption, you can again perform. For example, you can encrypt two marks, A and B, but again, you can still get the average without actually having the plain text. So that is what homomorphic encryption is, just allowing computation over. And you can actually even search. You have a large data set of encrypted data, and you can search for it. The beauty is that when you search and you retrieve that information, it's sent back to you in encrypted format, and then the idea is that you who has requested for it can then go back and decrypt it. So you can then decrypt it and get and see what you actually want. Or if you actually understand it, you can just move on the way it is. And what that will mean that in case there's a data leak, that data is one secured by encryption to begin with, but also even the people, so even if there's no leak, even the people themselves that are accessing the data, it is encrypted. So they cannot look at much of the data. All they just have to do is search and pull out bits and bits of what they want. And so that is what is homomorphic encryption. Private information encryption is somewhat similar to, retrieval is somewhat similar to homomorphic encryption. Basically, the data has been encrypted, or we are retrieving that, then we are retrieving that data item from the server, but we don't reveal what data item has been retrieved. So I want to retrieve A. I want to retrieve data AB. I pull that out. I've gotten that from the server. It's sat on my machine, and then I can go back and decrypt it and say, okay, now I've seen it. This is what I wanted. So for someone who does not have the decryption key, they'll not be able to access the data, but also they'll not be able to decrypt it. So again, that is privacy enhancing. So these are aspects of privacy preserving computing. All these ones are actually in production. We will not explain the theoretical model here. Secure multi-party computation, that one is clear. We've had it. I've just explained that two millionaires problem. Homomorphic encryption really does exist. You have your data, it's actually encrypted data about your customers, their balances, everything is encrypted, but the customer transacts, and you actually reduce the customer's balance, although the data is already encrypted. So there are also aspects of that in privacy information retrieval. Then after looking at the two, of course, we've looked at privacy preserving computing, we looked at data anonymization. Then we focus on anonymous communication. Anonymous communication basically means you're trying to communicate on the internet, trying to communicate anonymously. So there are quite a number of things that you can use. Anonymous online IDs, which are pseudonyms. Like, for example, here, if someone came and looked at Sempre Misterioso, will say, but who is this person? So they may not actually be able to know that it's me. But the only challenge with that is, one, that the metadata may be leaked. For example, I have assumed they're mysterious, but my video is on. So it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So it's a pseudonym, yes, but you can already attach the actual one body to the pseudonym. So it may not make sense. the metadata for those pseudonyms may be leaked. For example, if you're on X and you're using username something, you may think you're probably that's a pseudonym, but then you go for a party somewhere and you're sharing images, or the metadata in terms of your telephone number, your address, some of the things you store may be leaked. So, but also it's a way of preserving privacy online. It may be illegal in some countries, yes. So those are aspects we need to consider. Anonymous VPNs and proxies, we've used quite a number of those. Election time, Facebook was blocked, even up to now. Some posted these VPNs. It's okay. It allows anonymous communication, but also many of the VPNs are commercial. What that means is you have to register for them. So the guys, they will have your email address, they will have your name, though you can also try to be mysterious around those. But many of them are commercial, that information is shared. But also, you're not anonymous to the VPN provider. You're anonymous to everyone else, but then you're not anonymous to the VPN provider because they have that information and that traffic still goes to them. And for many of the VPNs that are free, you're actually you're more insecure than actually not using a VPN at all. Because you don't know where that information is going. The VPN provider has no obligation to you. It's a free service, so if you want to use it, you use it. And for many of us that use these VPNs online, we don't really care about that. But you're actually more exposed if you use that, and one could say probably more secure if you use a commercial VPN. Legal issues, yes, some are important. Many of them may be restricted in some countries. Anonymous emails, I've listed quite a number of them. You can actually send email without an account. The provider that allows for that. You send an email, there's no account. It's just sent. The person receives it, and that is it. There's anonymous email address where I've put a link there, anonymousemail.me, that goes. For some of us who are familiar with iOS and Apple, Apple has a feature called hide my email. What that will mean that the phone knows your email address, but when you're writing an email, it can create for you a new email address that you used to send, but when someone responds that email address, it's routed back to your iCloud. So your email address is hidden from that person. So if you're registering for an online service, you can just hit that and register for it. So that's also privacy enhancing. Temporary email addresses, this must have been my trashemail.com, not my trash email. There's an S missing there. Basically, you get the email, use it, send, dump. And the very many providers, and I've listed some there. That's also important. Onion routing, many of us are familiar with the aspect of Tor that has a layer protection that uses onion routers, creates a virtual circuit, and the traffic is encrypted at every layer. The only challenge with that is that it becomes due to several layers of encryption, becomes extremely slow, and again becomes unusable. But that's also an important aspect, and it is privacy enhancing. Though there will be aspects of usability that may be affected. So those are the 4 examples I've listed for anonymous communication. For those of us that are on the internet, I've listed some web privacy PETs here. One of them is the HTTP mechanisms. If you look at there's an HTTP do not track header. That is very, very important. That should be on. That to allow a website not to track you as you browse through, and that's privacy enhancing. Private browsing, you can do incognito mode, but also there are dedicated web browsers that are privacy enhancing. For example, I use Brave. So Brave does a lot of things. It stops ads, it blocks trackers, it gives it blocks pop-ups. So it gives you some level of privacy, and it's a good. So you can either use a dedicated browser or you can just use a browser in incognito mode. Incognito mode, there's no history, do your thing, get it out, and you're on your way. Third-party tracker visualization and visualizers and blockers. Those are private tools that you can use as well. For example, guys that have AdBlock Plus, guys that have visualizers that show you, or that stop trackers that show you there's a tracker here, and the other side. So that's also privacy enhancing. Those are tools that you can use. But also more importantly, which is not necessarily a technical control per se, is a privacy policy. It's very important because it allows, when we talk of privacy enhancing technology, we talk of aspects of handing power back to the user. So here, we're disclosing to the user how you gather the information, how you use it, how you disclose it, and how you manage customer data. So privacy policy by itself is also a very good privacy enhancing technology. Just briefly on blockchains, because we do understand what blockchains are, what cryptocurrencies are. It's a distributed trust. There's no central person, what you call no big brother to manage everyone around. Transactions are immutable. It hits one node and hits the other. It's linked together. You cannot delete. If you delete, you have to delete everything else. It is secure because you need to have power over 51% of the network to overthrow it. So if it's a public blockchain, it is secure. So it's really it's okay. But of course, yes, it implements pseudonymity by design. What that means is, by default, your name and your information is not disclosed. It's not known, but you use what you call public key addresses when you're exchanging information or when you're dealing. The only problem with it is that the idea of those public key addresses that's supposed to be dynamic. What that means, if I have a transaction, I've processed the transaction, I have a public key address, that interaction is done, I'll have to discard the key and get another key. But what most people don't change that. So idea, the aspect of privacy in the blockchain by itself also gets messed up because we as people, we are defeating it. But also secondly, there's a privacy weakness. For example, if I have my crypto and I want to convert it to UGX or to GBP, I have to go to a crypto exchange. And when I go to the crypto exchange, I will need to provide KYC. And so that will mean that my pseudonym that is ideally supposed to be anonymous or not or pseudonymous then will be tied to me because now I've provided KYC because I want to convert. So there's privacy weakness there, but also aspects of compliance to, let's say, GDPR. For example, someone wanted a right to be forgotten. We've already said something goes in a blockchain, that's gone, it cannot move. So you cannot enforce right to be forgotten. So the privacy weaknesses there. But also now, finally, aspects of copyright law, illegal content. Copyright law basically means I have copyright over something. I've put it on. I've put it on. I've put it on the blockchain. It is immutable. That means now anyone can access it, especially if it's put on a public one. Anyone can access. So how do I maintain the copyright aspects again of illegal content? For example, child pornography or revenge porn. The images about you that have been put on the internet and it's on the blockchain. Ideally, if that is there, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not going anywhere because that stays intact. So yes, it's by design, it's supposed to be privacy enhancing, but just because of weaknesses, we sort of lose those aspects of the privacy in there. Then finally, aspects of, I hope so finally anyway, DLPs, which are data loss protection technologies. These ones you should be familiar with. You employ a DLP, usually it's at the perimeter. Anything that is going out prevents sensitive data from leaking out to the internet. It can be able to know that probably this looks like a NIN, so why is it going out? This looks like a card number, why is this going out? So aspects of DLP there. So it secures data at rest, in use, and in motion. So that is also another class of PATs that we need to employ, which is data loss prevention technologies. Then, of course, we talked of the aspects of privacy by design. This one is it's not necessarily a technology per se. It's what we call a principle. A principle. So basically what that is that means just implement privacy by design. That means your privacy is at the core of what you do. It's not an afterthought. It's like how we talk of security by design. Ideally, so this is what privacy by design means. And these are some of, I've listed the 7 principles here, and I'll just not go through them. It should be proactive, not reactive. That means proactive as it is happening. As you're building a technology, you're building a privacy. Privacy should be embedded into the design. It should not be an afterthought. That is very clear. There should be end-to-end security. That is full system protection. You cannot say we have privacy from customer registration to finalization of the creating of the account, but now after they create the account and they begin transacting, there's no privacy there. No. So privacy by design means that entire chain, that entire life cycle of the customer journey, there's end-to-end security and end-to-end protection. There's respect for user privacy, which we've talked about, should be user-centric, giving information back to the user, allowing the user to have, or the data subject to have control over their own privacy, which is also important. Visibility and transparency, you be transparent to the user, and of course, the data subject, those aspects the law allows for or the law requires, that should be as transparent as possible. And then there should be privacy as the default setting. Finally, ideally, what that will mean is that if there's an option, if you're trying to implement privacy, privacy must be as the default setting. For example, for many of us that use Windows, for many of us that use Windows, you'll see, let's say, aspects of sending crash information to Microsoft. So that by default, that crash information, if you're using a principle of privacy by design, it should be off until the user says, "Okay, I'm okay with sending it now. You can send it to Microsoft." Or for those that use iOS, default for the apps are set by default to not track. So then the user can go ahead and change. Okay, the app can now track me. For anyone that uses, I think it's iOS 14 and above. I'm not necessarily sure about that, but that means privacy should be the default setting, and not that. One thing I just want to end with is aspects of social media, and as well as social media will be the end of privacy. There's quite a lot of information that we do share there, and some of them is as basic as people that do morning. Someone wakes up and does a job. They do their job, and then the person drops the map on WhatsApp, and you can clearly see that the person was running from this point. They ran here, they turned here, and they're happy sharing that information. So I did my 28 kms in the morning. So this is where I passed. You can clearly see the person is moving from their home, going to a specific place, and then even shows the return journey. So you can say, well, the person has returned to where they started. So that means ideally, that is where they live. So there's that information. There's a lot of information that we're sharing on TikTok. And TikTok by itself is, of course, is privacy invasive, but even the content that the people send is also necessarily, someone is somewhere, someone is whatever they are, they're just sharing information. Now they're what we call lives. There's I don't know whether many of you are familiar. There's a couple that actually, this couple I've seen, because I'm doing some research on TikTok. There's a couple that I've seen that actually when they're going to sleep at night, they turn on their life, and they're live throughout the night. You can actually, at any time of the night, when you go to that account, you can clearly see that the guy is, and I'm like, okay, I don't know whether we just don't really value, or we say we value privacy, and we don't know where social media will be the end of it, the end of our privacy, something that we need to ponder about. But also, out of social media, maybe we can just also think, even the UK government itself, but I don't know whether you're familiar with the structure of the EU VRM, which is the Vehicle Registration Mark. That mark by itself has a lot of information. Of course, now I think it's being that the UK left the EU, they've probably removed some of these things. But if you look at how the number plate was, there was GB here. The first thing would be the identifier of the country, which of course was optional. But then BD will be the area code, means where the owner of the car stays. Because all areas in the UK and in the US, I think even in Rwanda, areas that are mapped have zip codes. So there'll be two letters that signify the area code. So you can see this person lives in BD. Then 51 is a person's age identifier, which age batch they fall in. Then the only random letters are the three letters at the end. So there's a lot of information. So one, you can see the country the person is from, you can see their area code, you can see their age. So if it is these robbers of Kampala, a person can say, hey, this person is 51 years old. They may not be able to fight back, so now I can rob them. Or they stay in this area. So it's really something for us to have a think about. And the privacy paradox, well, we say we care about privacy, but the things that we do not show that actually we do. We say we do care about it, but we're sharing quite a lot of information on social media. We're sharing quite a number of, we're sharing lives. We're live on TikTok. We're live. I think that soon we're going to have, I don't know whether it's already there, but I think I want to believe soon we're going to have a provision where you can be, for example, now let's say for Meta, you can be live on Instagram, you can be live on Facebook, and you can be live on WhatsApp all at once. So the same person is that same live, since now it's the same company, that same live can feed across the entire. And yeah, so we really say we care about privacy, but do we actually care? Because I mean, your information is out there and you're actually giving out free. You go for a conference and asking for your number, your information, and you're really providing your email address and providing a telephone number. Are you actually privacy aware? So there's something that we need to think about. There's an interesting video, but due to time, I'll just paste the link in the chat. It's called the Belgian Mind Reader. It's something that is important for us to look at. But basically, really, that is it. And I do hope that we've been able to share, been able to get a better understanding of these technologies. And I hope that I've been able to impart some aspects of understanding and knowledge. And that is it from me. I thank you for the pleasure of your time. Let's get into the questions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anita. And if time allows, I'll play the video. It's like a 2-minute video, but I think we've lost time already. Thank you.
If it is 2 minutes, I think you can play it.
Okay, thanks. So with the permission, let me just move out of this share and share that. Just let me confirm you can receive the audio.
Yes, we can.
Dag Fien. Ik zie een school tegen Antwerpen.
Ja,
Insecten.
dat blieft?
Ik voel 2 insecten op je rug. Kan dat?
Ja, vlinders.
Slovenie?
Zo hè.
Een moto. Oranje.
Pas erop.
Zenit.
Oui, bien.
Je hebt een vriendin. Julie de...
Ja.
Een boeiend liefdesleven. 3, 4 zelfs.
Die vierde, daar zwijg ik meestal over, dus dat weten niet veel mensen.
Hoe is het met je spierscheur? Maison rouge, balkon, blanc. Ja. Ik zie geld, ik zie transacties. Maar kent je rekeningnummer van buiten? Ik denk dat ik het wel weet. Je staat wel negatief op je bankrekening.
Ja?
9-7. Last month, you spent €200 on alcohol. Vorige maand €300 aan kleding gespendeerd. 8,
Ja.
5. Voor een huis dat van eigenaar gaat veranderen. €795.000.
Ja, eigenlijk.
41.
Ja.
Is dat juist?
Ja, dat is juist. Oh my god. Oh nee. Ah, dat is, ik weet niet hoe eng.
Thank you. We're done here from my side.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Rodney, for that very, very insightful and informative presentation. And also mostly for the video. I think that should be, it should be able to tell us that we need to move our lives offline. And maybe we should also walk the talk. Let's not stop at saying we care about privacy when we are not doing anything about it. Okay, I'll dive right into the questions. There was a question in the chat. Okay, someone said, thank you for the presentation. Please, I did not understand well the concept of introducing noise under data anonymization. kindly help to explain, if possible, with a practical example.
Okay, you can proceed. I've noted it down.
Oh, should I do all the questions at once?
Yeah, maybe 3 or 5.
All right. Another question we have, someone asked, how can we deal with this privacy paradox in a nutshell?
Okay, privacy paradox. Okay.
Yeah, I think those are the questions I will so far have. Over to you, Rodney.
All right. Thank you so much. I think there was a question on introducing noise. That is for privacy in terms of explaining it to a practical example. I think the example I gave there, of course, you can take it from a sound perspective, but from a data perspective, let's say you have and this is not basically any it's not unwanted noise, but it is statistical noise, if I may put it that way. And what that means is that there's a statistical property that can be reversed. I just try to make it as simple as, let's say you have scores of students. Let's say AB, let's say one gets 75, the other one gets K. Sorry, 95, the other one gets 75. So aspect of introducing noise there may be one. You can either introduce alphabets, but then you can also introduce statistical noise. Let me just make it simpler. That means if someone has 75%, the statistical noise that you can increase is you can say, okay, the students have 75, there are those that have 30, there are those that have 40. Let me get the standard deviation for simplicity of understanding. Let me get the average of those marks. Or let me get the median of those marks. And I think we do understand median, which is the number that comes in the middle. We do understand probably mode, which is the number that appears most. Let the students get 75, 25, and 40. You can say, let me get the average of all those numbers. When I get the average, I add the average to each of the students' scores. I mean, if the average is 40, the person that had 75 will have 115. The person that had 45 will have 85. The person that had 25 will have 70 because we've added 45, 45, 45. So when those numbers are released, someone that has 75 that now has 120, if someone looks at that score, they'll not be able to understand that actually these are actually max scores. So you've added noise into it. For you, who is the person who's the processor of that data between the controller and the processor, you know that there's noise. There's a 25 that has been added as noise. But to the ordinary person, they will not see. If someone has 75, then they add 45, it becomes 120. The ordinary person will not know that actually those are max scores. Okay, 120, they cannot be 120%, surely. But these are not student scores. So it's privacy preserving in a way that you've added some aspects of noise into it. The noise might be statistical, but the data controller and the processor know that, and they can be able to statistically reverse that back for them to be able to identify the actual score. So when such data would leak out to the public, the general public will not have an understanding of it. I'm just trying to make and analyze that as really as basic as possible in terms of aspect of how that noise can be introduced. And then two, on the aspects of the privacy paradox. Yes, I mean we say we want to be private. We say we want to, but we're the simple that go out and put out this information. We're the simple that that actually displayed. There's the what you call nudges. I mean, someone just nudges you to do something, and the social media is created is the nudge is for us to create and to share more. The nudge is not for us to observe privacy. If someone is a content creator on TikTok, like, there's a constant urge in terms of understanding. There's a constant urge in terms of I want to share, I want to do this, I want to put the information there. There's that constant urge of someone actually being able to, and that's what social media platforms actually feed on, the content that is shared. But how do we stop that? One, such trainings that we have are very important that we do have these awareness sessions and videos like what we've just shared. They're very important to show us that actually we say that this information can be used against you, but actually what we usually say is theoretical. But now we see it in a practical sense, that someone claims to be a magician when actually they are not. And basically what they're doing is there are people behind the scenes that are online getting all the information about you and feeding that information to their ear. And for you think the person knows all these things, when they actually do not know this information. So there's that, but also secondly, there should be aspects of nudging people nudging you into privacy. Something that really hints and says, but you think about like, but should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do the other? So that's important. That's important for that discussion to be had. And the best example of a nudge that I give is when you go to a supermarket. It is not by mistake that the sweets are placed at the counter. It is not a mistake. It is by design that someone has seen, okay, you come with your kids, you've bought all the things, but as you're heading out, the chocolates will be at the entrance. And the kids will be pointing at it. So you'll be forced to buy it. So there's that nudge that actually, so we need to find a way. Of course, there's a lot of work around, and I'll share something probably in the chat. There's a lot of nudges around privacy, things that allow someone to ponder before they understand or before they do perform a specific action. Those do exist. So we just need to develop nudges to just nudge people against privacy. We need to attend these sessions more. We need to get more privacy aware. And I think the Personal Data Protection Office is doing quite a lot of work in that area. So I think it's good that we do have these sessions. Yeah, of course, I've seen a comment from Cephas that I want to comment on. Yeah, so, and I agree, there's a need for balance between noise and futility of the data. And that's why we're having these discussions around, yes, you are anonymizing the data, but the data may at one point become unusable, even to you, the person who needs to understand, or the person who needs to use the data. So there has to be the right balance between, yes, we want to add noise, we want to maintain the privacy, but the usability of the data is what needs to be kept at the core. If you keep the nudge, sorry, if you keep the if you keep the salt, or if you keep the noise as simple as possible, the bad guys can also interpret that noise and pull out the data. If you make it very complex as well, then you also have an instance where the data may become unusable to you. Yeah. So thank you. Oh, just in another comment from Michael. Use of anonymous emails may be flagged as phishing. Are there measures that can be taken to make it effective? Yes, use of anonymous emails, yes, may be flagged as phishing. Yes, but if you look at many of the examples that we provide there, they actually pass they bypass the filter. Because ideally, it will be a clear email, to be a clear email address. Of course, if it's an advanced filtering algorithm, they may say, but we've seen this come through a lot of times. So it may flag some of them, but ideally, if you're an actual user that wants to maintain privacy, the idea is that it's anonymous email, you use it once, that is done. So basically, what that means, that email will go through the first time. That means you've not sent it to multiple people. So many spamming, many phishing for things may not be able to identify that. But when they do, also there are those that actually bypass it. For example, if you just hide my email on iCloud, nothing is going to block that. So it will go through, to go clean, send the communication. After using it, you drop that away. Thank you so much. I don't know if there any other question. I'm just trying to run through the chat here.
Rodney,
there is a question, a very interesting question that I think we shouldn't miss. Someone asked, how best can we adapt these privacy policies in an IT inconsistent environment?
Okay, I've seen it. I've seen Sean. Okay. Yes. Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Yes, and I do agree. It's a very important question, and it's vital that we have discussions around those. If you allow me, the sun is giving me a lot of light. Let me just close this a little. Yeah. So that is true, because the aspect is inconsistent. Things are changing, but also there is no specific requirement that your privacy policy should be cast to stone. Because your privacy policy should inform the users in terms of how you use their data. If that changes, then your privacy policy has to evolve. So if your environment, if the business process changes, if technology changes, there's no specific requirement that this is the policy and this is the policy that does not change. The policy has to be adapted to the environment. The policy has to be able to change and has to be able to adapt. Otherwise, if you have a policy that then does not really that does not look at the current environment, then you have a policy that is basically defective. So it's vital that policy is consistent, the business processes, and that's the idea. One of the reasons why they should actually be reviewed. There's constant review of the policy to see that actually it fits within the frame, the frame of the environment and the business context. In terms of, I can just probably also answer the same question, reframe the question in terms of not necessarily the policy, but also in terms of the technologies that we use. The environment is consistent. Yes, technologies may change over time, or your infrastructure may change, but also then it's true that if your infrastructure changes, then your technologies also have to change, because if you had privacy embedded in one system, now that system has changed, you still need privacy embedded in the next. So it's important that also, whether it is the policy, whether it is the people, whether it is the technologies, all those have to be in sync, and all those have to be in alignment with the context of the business to begin with, but also the strategy of the business, and also be aligned with the business process. So those things change. If the environment is inconsistent, then the policy also will have to create that balance and be able to provide that feedback loop so that it actually does make sense. I hope that answers you, Ivan, and a good question there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rodney. The conversation is really getting interesting, but we'll have to end here because of time. We would like to take this opportunity to thank you for today's presentation. It was very informative and it was very engaging, as you could see in the comments. Thank you for always accepting whenever we call upon you to speak to our community of DPOs, and we hope to call you again really in future to speak about more complex topics in the area of data protection and privacy. Thank you to the rest of the participants for always making it for our monthly webinars. I have typed a link in the chat. Kindly click on it and give us feedback on today's session. The feedback you give us enables us to make the future trainings better for you. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye, everyone. And thank you for the pleasure of your time.
Bye. Thank you too.